Hi podcasters, we are Listen and Win, beaming live from the friendliest city in the Northern Hemisphere, depending on who you bump into. So we are Listen and Win. I am Cy Valentine, founder and MD of Speak and Win, and I'm just going to introduce Gray first before we reveal our incredible guest today. So before we do a big reveal, I'm just going to introduce Gray, our incredible presenter. How are we, Gray?
I'm very good, Simon. How are you?
Very good.
Excellent.
How was it? How's work and business and life with you?
Very well, very busy, you know, but yeah, good, all good, no complaints.
Gray wears many hats. One of his hats is he's got his own business, Stylographics. So for marketing, for graphic design, if you need some help, this guy is on the money, very creative, sets the bar very high. I mean, you know, do you know what I mean? I'm not blowing smoke, he's a cracking guy, so please get involved. So, Gray, I hope you're ready to pump our guest with loads of questions.
Very much.
Put him on the spot, etc. So we've already given the game away. So I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction. So our guest today, tremendous young man. So he's not only is he the CEO of Ocular Media, so he's got his own company. It's a digital marketing company. So if you have any digital marketing needs, you can have a chat with him and get in touch. But he's best known for being the other half of a tremendous DJ partnership, one of the best radio stations in North England. So there's an amazing guy, he's like Merseyside royalty, the Mr. Lee Butler. So our guest today is the other half of Lee Butler's amazing morning show on In Demand. So our guest, he is the Batman to his Robin. He is the genie to his lamp. He is the jam and cream to his scone. He's even the marshmallow to his hot chocolate. Yes, he's been called. If you welcome Joe Hollywood. Give me come on, Joe.
Just say what an introduction,
mate.
That was
Probably one of the best you've ever.
I saw you out afterwards. Like, sort this out.
One of the best.
Thank
Joe,
you very much for having me.
So lovely to have you.
No, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
For our viewers and listeners, just to say that we're producing this podcast episode and the whole series, and the idea is to find really confident speakers, brilliant communicators who will share their tips and tricks with young people and adults through the series to help them become more employable, more confident, better speakers, but mainly beat the fear of speaking, because we know it's a massive issue. So we do appreciate you coming today.
No, thank you very much for having me.
So Joe, before we get started, would you just like to introduce yourself, just tell us a bit about yourself and also about some of your speaking experience as well?
So I'm heard 6 days a week on the radio, 5 of which getting up at 4:30 in the morning.
Wow.
So you can imagine very tough indeed. Usually it's a no talking until about like 5:30, 5:45. No, so I've been on the radio for coming up to 10 years nearly. I started when I was 12, so I'm 21, 22 in November. And yeah, started when I was 12.
You're only 22?
So 21. I'm 21, putting an age on me there.
Oh my days.
21. So yeah,
that's incredible.
Started when I was 12 and just doing some like community radio projects. I was actually part of this magazine show. It was called The Teen Team on a station called Seven Ways on the Wirral. Years ago it was a community station, and it was set up to basically teach you how to be a radio presenter. It was an FM thing. So it was like proper radio in your car. I used to have all my family listening at 6 p.m. through until 7 p.m. on a Friday night. It was every 3 weeks. And then from there I kind of just, I got the bug. I got hungry in terms of radio. Just kind of went through me as such, in terms of it was something which I loved doing. I loved the art behind it. I loved the connecting with an audience, connecting with certain people, you know, even though in reality it's a little bit like being in any studio, especially in any like radio studio, television studio, even a podcast studio like this. There's only there's 4 of us in this room right now, 3 of us on screen, and on the radio, it's quite similar. There's only 1 person, max 2, maybe 3 people in a studio. So that for me at first was quite, going back to speaking, that for me was quite a bit of a big thing to get my head around, because I've got this massive audience here to talk to, quite a wide range and great potential. But it's just me in a room by myself talking to a microphone. So at first getting over that concept. So then I left Seven Ways, Wirral Radio it was called, and just kind of went on from there. I've had little projects in the United States with a company called iHeartRadio, and most recently In Demand, so part of the breakfast show, as you said. I'm Lee's butt in Butler. As such, so that's me.
Well, let me stop you there. 21, Graham. You've got your own business. You know what? You've been running your own business for 10 years. The guy's 21. I mean, and he's been broadcasting as a DJ for 10 years. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm jealous, to be honest with you, Si, because at 21 I was just starting to find my feet in being confident.
Yeah.
So to be sort of like where you are, 21, is fantastic. Because as I say, 21, I think I was just starting to get my head around the fact that I'm going to have to start speaking to people here if I want to get ahead in life, if I want to be successful, if I want to get anywhere. I'm going to have to be uncomfortable for a little while. But then I suppose, like anything, the more that you put yourself out there, the more you practice it, then sort of the
precisely.
better it comes.
I'd say one thing which I've learned, kind of had to teach myself, especially over the last 2 or 3 years or so, is obviously with the radio being, it was 7 years at this point it had been on air, but then starting a company, that's a completely different path and different growth journey in terms of confidence. Obviously, you probably think, oh, look at him, he's a 21-year-old kid on the radio every morning, he's probably dead cocky, dead confident. But for me, when it turned into a business sense, obviously that confidence is there. And for me, it was just kind of a whole new journey, a whole new pathway in terms of how to, transfer from being jokey, fun Joe, who wakes everyone up every morning, to then being that serious CEO Joe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a strange thing, I find.
I suppose that the difference there would be, I mean, I've never done any kind of presenting in terms of like a radio show, but I suppose, like you say before, in a studio, it's just you and a microphone.
Yeah.
And you've got sort of Lee to bounce off, maybe.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're going into business meetings, I know for me, you're meeting people for the first time, you sort of, those kind of sort of self-projecting fears of like, what do they think I look like?
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
How am I going to perceive? Am I going to fumble my words?
Yeah, exactly. And also imposter syndrome as well.
Yes.
It's just something which I still suffer with on a daily basis. Like even before the mic goes live at 6 o'clock, sometimes on the way in, I'll be like listening to other podcasts, radio shows, and I'll be like, how do they do that?
Yeah.
And like for me, it's something which I don't believe I'll ever get over. I think it's just something which,
I think it's something that drives
you. It just happens. Yeah, it does. It does drive you. Yeah, 100%. I'd agree.
Yeah. So interesting. So before we get started, just give us a little brief overview. Let's start with Ocular Media. Just give us a little overview of what that involves.
Yeah.
And then just give us a little overview of your breakfast show with Lee with In Demand Radio, just so we get a bit of a flavour of your two main hats that you wear.
So Ocular Media is a digital marketing, videography, and basically it's a one-stop media service. So we specialise in video production, graphic design, marketing management, so marketing methods, bespoke marketing, implementation of strategies, and we work with a wide range of corporate clients, from international hotel brands, hotel management groups, to financial investment and commercial real estate.
Brilliant.
So that's like I want to say 9 to 5, but having your own business yourself, you two, it's not a 9 to 5 job.
Not a chance.
It's like
24/7.
Yeah, exactly, 24/7.
24/8.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's the Ocular side of things. So I head the company, and I've got a team of freelancers who basically deliver like fantastic results. I think I'm a big I pride myself on trying to highlight teamwork and highlight, in terms of like seniority and like me, I'm the boss. I don't see that in anything which I try and do.
Yeah.
I try and like make sure everyone's on a good path and we're
That's
all equal in terms of moving forward, and that also transpires in terms of the show as well. I see there's no them and us, if that makes sense. Between I consider myself like just I don't know, just an ordinary guy who's managed to get onto the radio. So that's In Demand. So 6 through until 10 every single weekday morning, myself and Lee Butler.
Wow, what a commitment.
Wake you up. So
wow.
Yeah, it's going to wake up next to Lee every day. Loads of girls will be dead jealous of that, won't they?
I suppose going back to what you said there, though, you and Lee are as only good as the production team that you've got.
Yeah.
So if they're not sort of as good as you need them to be, then the show isn't going to be
Exactly.
as good. So you're all like on that level, aren't you? Of there's no like Lee's up there and then the producer's down there.
Yeah.
Lee relies on the producer as much as the producer relies on Lee and yourself. And
it's a big collaborative team effort from everything amongst In Demand. So I also produce the show. So I'm the producer of the breakfast show. So I present.
You're only as good as yourself.
I sometimes call myself, when everyone's getting on my nerves, I'll say an executive producer. But that's just an ego thing. No, I'm joking. So yeah, we're all like,
Brilliant.
everyone in that station and everyone are in demand is just as important as what comes out that speakers, from the people who will get sales, from the people who will sort contracts out, to the people who sort, the future of the business, to the production, everything is just as important as each other. And that's something which I quite enjoy, being in that working environment, and it's a key part of me.
Brilliant.
It was good.
Excellent. Well, there's a lovely overview of a couple of the big hats that you wear. So just before we get into the meat and bones, because we're going to really press you on, how you've built your confidence and built your speaking skills, Joe, because you're very, very eloquent and seem really confident. Just to break you in gently, I want you to share with us some of your favourite speakers who, it could be celebrities, it could be someone on social media, people who speak well, great communicators who really inspired you as a young person to set the bar high as a speaker.
Without sounding too cringy or cliche, I'd actually say number one would be my dad.
Oh,
my dad's a teacher. He teaches at a school in Chester. And
which one? I bet you have spoke there.
Probably Christleton. Christleton
yeah,
High.
I spoke there. Yeah, I spoke there a few months ago.
Really? Yeah. So my dad's a teacher at Christleton, and he has got this ability and this art in terms of when he speaks, just to grab your attention. Brilliant at telling stories. Brilliant at. One of the most memorable moments was actually a eulogy at a funeral. I was going to say brilliant at delivering eulogies.
Yeah.
He's up for hire.
But that's so hard to do.
But exactly.
Yeah. So hard to do a eulogy.
I'd say number one, my dad definitely, and then can go to uncles of mine who are just great at telling stories. But also in terms of who you see on the television, there's a guy called Ryan Seacrest. He's an American radio DJ, presenter.
Yeah.
I like his ability. He kind of is on the fence between being a fan, say if he's doing an interview or he's speaking to somebody, he's on the fence of being a fan and also a interviewer at the same time.
Oh, right, okay.
And to have that ability to kind of juggle both hats whenever he's speaking in a public environment, for me, is something which I aspire to be like. I'd also say Philip Schofield.
Yeah, he's just so professional. He just oozes professionalism, doesn't he?
TV,
he's just unflappable, isn't he?
Yeah, him and Holly. I enjoy both of them. I love that, the way they work together. I think they work perfectly.
The dynamic's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Just got it sewn up.
100%.
Yeah,
so
relaxed.
I'd say those are the top inspirations for me.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Especially from a presenter point of view. In terms of business, Richard Branson, the Virgin CEO.
Of course.
I've seen a few of his speeches before, and a few of his kind of interviews that he's done, and I like the way he delivers his speeches, and I just think he's very, I don't want to say normal, because there he is in his private island, but at the same time when he's delivering his speech and his words, they just come across very, I want to say relatable for the consumer.
No, he is. Yeah. He really is, isn't he?
I think that's important, though. I think obviously different people are relatable for and to different people. So, for me, there's a guy called Gary V. I don't know if you've heard of Gary V.
Yeah.
So
he wears the hats and the shades.
Yeah, I mean, I could never talk the way he talks, because he is literally so brutally honest. That's not me.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean I can't pick things out of the way he delivers things.
Exactly.
But I think that is key, is finding someone that you can potentially relate to. It's different for everybody. Everyone has different things, but
100%. One thing I like about the likes of Gary V and like a lot of these newer podcasters as well, is their ability to kind of just say things how it is.
Yeah.
I think that's something which I still slack on quite a bit. I'm not the best at, say, if I need to criticise something or I need to actually speak my mind in terms of what I actually think about something. Over the last 12 months, I've got better at it.
Yeah.
But that for me was a big learning curve in terms of not beating around the bush, just getting directly to it. If something doesn't look good, how can you say, doesn't look very, very good, that? I was going to swear then, but I didn't know whether we can swear on this podcast.
If you want to swear.
No, it's going to be PG. So, if that doesn't look good, how do you portray that? How do you say, that looks awful, that? Without actually offending and coming across as just being rude.
I don't know about you, but I think there's two things in that, though, isn't there? There's not only are they beating the fear to be able to speak, but they're beating the fear of what people think about them as well, which is a massive thing.
Massive, huge
They don't
thing.
care that much what people think about what they're saying.
Yeah.
They have the confidence to say it, and they have the confidence to say, well, I don't care whether you agree or disagree. This is what I think.
They work hand in hand with each other. Part of being able to speak publicly, as you know, is all about getting over the fact, what if someone says something? What if this doesn't go to plan? What if, they think this of me? And like to this day, me and Lee, we experience it every day, every morning. People giving us a comment that, they're not enjoying something.
Yeah.
They can get quite personal sometimes. It's just one of them things. You take it on the chin and you just move on, because I always seem to think for every one person you upset, you've got loads there, which hopefully, touch wood, but likely or like a little bit me.
Yeah. Well, you've hit the nail on the head there, Joe, because you've talked about, you're working on a sort of a newfound confidence to try and, to get your opinion across, etc. when it matters. So again, the foundation stone for Speak and Win is, one of our main coaching points is build the courage. That's our strapline. Yeah. Build the courage to speak, win in life. So in those difficult meetings, in those negotiations, and diffusing a situation, actually backing yourself to say those things that, how many times have you looked back and said, I wish I'd have said something there. But then also, you've also mentioned that another part of one of our big foundation stones at Speak and Win is rejecting the judgments. So a lot of the things you've mentioned, some of the things Gray's mentioned, we say comes under the umbrella of actually being judged. Yeah. And we're constantly being judged. Whether we do nothing or whether we put ourselves out there, we are judged. We're in such a judgmental society. Absolutely. And so a big part of what we do is coaching young people and adults to reject that judgment.
100%. Even today, like I was on my way here and I was thinking, am I dressed okay? Am I wearing? I'm glad we're all in black, by the way. Can I just say, it wasn't like,
you got the email.
I got the email. But like even on the way here, I was thinking, I'm not too sure how I look. Am I okay? I tried to get my hair cut. Like earlier on, didn't happen. So I was thinking, I was nearly giving you a call. I'm not doing it. And then spitting the
Turn the cameras off.
Turn the cameras off.
Diva.
Yeah, audio only. No, but even like going back to, again, that fear of being judged, I kind of sat down with myself just before I came in and was like, do you know what? It is what it is. Yeah. As long as I have a good time and you guys have a good time. And I think as long as everybody is nice to each other and there isn't this massive ego trip that people go on, at the end of the day, if you're upsetting someone by something that you say, it's obviously depending on the context of it. It's one of them. You either you can get over it yourself, or you just learn from that.
So I'm going to take this moment just to say to our listeners, to our viewers, massive coaching point here, and that is, and Joe and Graham have alluded to it. It's about rejecting the judgments. When we're planning to speak, whether it's in public, whether it's on the radio, and Joe's already mentioned, getting some negative comments when he's doing his radio show with Lee. There's so many things that we worry. What will people say? What will they think? Will it go wrong? Will I be judged? Will they like me? Will they like me hair? Will they the way I look? No, but you saying you're going to get your head cut. But it's so important that we reject the judgments. And if you can have that as a starting point, once you don't give a flying flip what people think, then you will start to have the courage to speak in those key moments when you really need to.
100%. And I think that's, as you've said, that's a key obstacle in terms of public speaking. Yeah. So it's important that everyone tries to do their best just to get over that as best as they can. You might not be as good as somebody else in terms of public speaking, and you might not be able to get over that barrier, but just do what you can to improve yourself.
I can't believe he's only 21.
I'm staggered.
I'm studying, listening to him speak.
It's
thinking,
incredible.
Wow, if you're only 21 and you've got this level of confidence
what
now.
What was it when you first said it? Is Hollywood your real name? You're actually not. I'm starting to believe like you expecting someone else to come through the.
But I think it's good for anyone listening or anyone watching
21, it's amazing.
To be able to see. Well, hang on, this lad's only 21.
21.
He's on an amazing breakfast show with Lee Butler. He's running his own business. He's only 21 years of age. The confidence that he's got, I think it's a good benchmark to say. Well, hang on. If Joe can do it, then why can't I do it? Why can't I mean, as I say, I think at 21 I was starting to understand I need to be a little bit more out of my comfort zone, I need to speak to people more, I need to be a little bit more out there. But to be where you are at 21, I think is fantastic. But I think obviously going back to starting at such a young age at 12, it just propels you right up to where you are now. Yeah, 100%.
I'd say a lot of people will ask, why did you start? How did you start? And I'm not too sure how I started. It was kind of just that ambition, and I think that ambition just drove me from there. Everyone has got a bug in the life, something that they're interested in, be it a hobby, be it something that they do for a career. And for me, it was all about just jumping at the opportunity which I can and developing that skill and being conscious of those skills. You know, they're the skills which are required for the job.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't go and be a doctor without going to university. You wouldn't go and be a pilot without getting a pilot's license, similar to being on the radio. No good being on the radio if you're someone who's quiet and doesn't like to speak.
Yeah.
You know, so it's about developing that skill anyway.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, we're going to deep dive now. We've got to know you now, all the introductions out the way, and got all your inspiring speakers, etc. So, bit of a deep dive to get some real top tips and tricks for our audience and our listeners. So, the first question, Joe, is, and you just slightly sort of hinted at it there. So, going back to when you were and now this is hard now because you're only 21, but going back to when you were a child and sort of early teens, how confident were you? And sort of give us a sort of a level. I mean, you went on the radio at 12, but let's try and go back a little bit earlier. So, as a young child, were you already really confident?
I'd say I've always been confident. I think there's a difference between confidence and being cocky. I've always been quite a confident child. But when I wouldn't be confident would be in the likes of, I'd say school sometimes for me, you know, because I was working in I'll go back to being 12, because I was working in an adult industry, you know, surrounded by adults every day. It was a big thing for me to kind of mature quite quickly. So then when I go back into a classroom, into maths, at the age of 13, 14, and kids are, I don't know, flicking paper and stuff like that, I was just like, oh, grow up, you know. But for me, that was a big, like, massive confidence, not because I felt as though I didn't fit in there. I'd say that was like the main one for me, being in school, and also just trying new things, making new friends and stuff like that. I've always been quite mature, and I've always been a little bit, I don't want to say different, I've always just been a little bit different. But just being in sometimes, you know, having to put yourself in awkward social situations and just having that confidence to get through it. That was something which, when I was really young, it was something that was quite difficult for me. But I was always talking. I've been talking since the day I was born. Wow. As you can tell. Only 20 minutes into the podcast, and here we are.
Was there ever a point? Sorry, just hold that thought. Was there ever a point at 12 where you were close to not doing it and giving up and thinking, I'm just not too sure, or were you just that confident, going, no, this is what I want to do?
I'd say yes and no at the same time. So before I actually got onto the radio, I applied to over 48 different radio stations.
Wow.
48. And I've got the same email, the email template saying, hi, I'm Josef Hollywood, I'm 12 years old. I even set up my own online radio station. I'm sure it was illegal. You watch, I'll get a knock now. I'm sure it was like, back then it was called Atlantic 26, thought of the name myself. And part of that was me sitting in my kitchen broadcasting to no one, thinking I was doing this big national, international radio show. So yes and no, because obviously after 48 knockbacks at the age of 11, 12 years old, you're thinking, do you know what? It's not for me, this. I'm not for me. And I harassed. I remember that the lady on reception, her name was Lorraine, and there was a gentleman called Glyn. And Lorraine and Glyn, my name was spread all over that building as do not talk to. It must have been, because I must have harassed them. I sent them about 12 emails. So then, for me, I'd say that was like the moment, am I okay to do this? Can I actually do this job? But then I've always believed that there's a way around something.
Yeah.
You know, if you desperately want to get something, or if you want something in life, even if it's as simple as, I don't know, going away for a weekend or something like that, there's definitely a way to make you go away for a weekend for you to get that goal. You just have to sit down, analyze what you've got already, you know, make yourself feel quite, you know, at home and at peace with what you've got, and then go from there in terms of achieving your goals and achieving your targets, to kind of sit there and think, actually, if I jiggle this about, or if I do this, or if I try it with this avenue, that'll make me be in better shoes to actually get to where I want to be.
Yeah. Well, this is a big question for me and Gray, because what we're very interested now, because you've sort of set the scene for us. You've told us, you know, how you got into being a DJ and broadcasting, etc. So those few early years, was there ever a time where you were fearful to speak? So have you ever had fear or anxiety about speaking, or have you always been extremely confident? Are you saying, Joe, you've never had any nerves, or
no. I know. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying.
I've been confident.
I was going to say, could you imagine this would have been an end of that podcast, wouldn't it? No, for me, there's definitely been times where I have shied away from a lot of subjects, especially I'd say in the last 5 years or so. I'm 21 years old. In I think it was November last year. No, September. No. About August time last year, August last year, 2021, I came out as gay on public platforms, social media, on the radio.
Very brave.
And for me, homosexuality, LGBTQ plus community, it was always something which I knew I always was. I know I always have been a gay man since I was very young. There used to be a guy called Matt Evers on Dancing on Ice, and that was like the the confirmation for me. Right. But like even little things like that, I used to shy away from, because for me, I didn't feel comfortable, and it's not that I didn't have that support there. My mum, my dad, everyone in my family is so supportive, and always have been.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. It was a personal thing.
Yeah.
And back then, like I'm saying back then as if it was years ago.
Yeah.
But in reality, this is nearly 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Things are so much different in terms of how, LGBT plus communities are being seen in media. So for me, I'd always say being LGBT, being a gay man has always been a bit of a shy conversation for me, a shy topic. Even sometimes now, it can be a little bit, hang on a second, whoa, let's try and avoid that in a certain way. But that's just a personal thing which I need to get over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't always been confident. I'm not 100% confident all the time. So yeah, I'd say.
Well, that's really brave. I mean,
It
there's a young lad. I think he plays for Blackpool. I think he's 17.
Yeah.
Just come out in the media. I think just last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've
Just
seen
The
that
yesterday,
last
first,
night.
gay lad to openly come out in professional football.
And that was a part of like people. I was in an interview the other week with the Echo, the Liverpool Echo it was, and the reporter, great guy, his name's Paul, and he was asking me questions in terms of being on the radio and being a gay man. How do you use your platform to kind of talk about like LGBT issues? And it's something, you listen to the show. It's not KDO. It's
KDO.
It's like
Welcome to KDO FM live with Joe
that's
Hollywood.
actually a station in Manchester, by the way.
Really?
I just want to say that it is a station in Manchester.
Oh, wow.
But it's it's not a station. It's not something which we bring in.
No, of
Today we're
course.
talking about LGBT topics. It's the simple things like, last night I went for dinner with my boyfriend. Me and my boyfriend have just booked a holiday to go away.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're going this place, we're going that place.
Yeah.
Simple little things in conversation that you wouldn't even bat an eyelid when you heard it between a straight couple.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I didn't hear any of those.
Yeah.
The gay people on TV when I was growing up was the like of Alan Carr, Paul O'Grady, these very big, like very flamboyant characters. I love both of those. But for me, I don't know whether it's because I'm not, maybe after a few drinks, I'm quite flamboyant. But I mean, I'm not like, I found myself in a difficult position to recognise where I am. I was into sports. I used to play football, rugby, hockey, badminton, all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
So being so like sporty and being in quite a, alpha male kind of sport, I struggled to find my feet.
Yeah. So I suppose you can really relate to this young lad who's come out, the 17-year-old. I mean, that's...
And like Lee Butler and I, we had the conversation a couple of months ago, like when we first started about the show, in terms of how do we approach it. And for the first 10 months, we didn't even mention the fact I was gay. It was just Joe and his partner. If you were to get a partner, Joe, and it was just one of those things. But that was just because there was no need to. But now I feel like more than ever, especially like after thinking about when I was a kid and growing up and what were the gay people on TV. I'd like to say there's some people listening, no matter how old they are, if they could be married to a lady, to a man married to a wife he might actually be homosexual. Whoever they are, whatever age they are, there's someone that they can relate to on the radio. And even if it's little comments like, I did this last night with my boyfriend.
Or even a young Joe listening to the station.
Yeah,
like
100%. I would have, I was talking to my mum about this a couple of weeks ago. And I said, I just wish back then that we were able to talk about issues like that. As I say, issues isn't even an issue.
No, it's a bizarre thing. That's the thing, isn't it? It's on one hand, it's not an issue, but on the other hand, you've kind of got the social responsibility to say, well, hang on, I need to be who I wanted to aspire to or listen to, because I never had that.
Exactly. And there's a series on Netflix at the moment called Heartstopper. I don't know whether you've seen it recommended to you. Incredible series. If you're like watching this now and you're thinking, I actually might be in a little bit of a similar situation to Joe, Heartstopper, it was incredible, and that again boosted my confidence. You know, I'm 21. I watched it 2 weeks ago, and I've just felt so much more gay after watching that.
Well, Joe, so far, brilliant. Love your enthusiasm, love your passion, all the tips and tricks you're sharing. This, amazing episode. We haven't even finished. So I'm just going to ask you another question before we go into a little bit of an interlude. So while we've got you, give us the secret to how you've built your confidence. Is there anything you've done over the years? You started so early. I've spoken this year. In the last 7 months, I've spoken to 12,000 school leavers face-to-face across 75 colleges and schools. Wow. And I have met anyone as confident as you. No. I have met anyone who started, in the media as early as you. So share with our listeners and viewers, how do you build your confidence? Is there anything that you do?
That's a really good question. How do I build my confidence?
And how have you built it? How have you become this confident? What's the secret?
I would say, again, people get confused between being cocky and being confident. I think there's a massive difference between the both.
I'd agree.
At the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, and even now, someone saying no to me isn't a thing. If someone says, oh, you can't do that, you won't be able to do that, my always first question is, why won't I be able to do that? Obviously, I'm not talking about daft things like being able to, I don't know, walk on water and stuff like that. Daft things like that, or like legal things. But if someone says, oh no, you can't do that, you're not this, you're not that, it's like, well, why aren't I? And it's about addressing that. And again, going back to how I was saying about there's always a way around something, there's always a goal around something. We have a game in the studio, if your phone goes off, you need to buy everyone around.
Sorry, Jacob.
Just saying that.
Is that fine?
Your phone goes off, everyone gets around.
So
it's going to cost me a fortune.
It's going to cost you a fortune. Especially
what
how much I can drink.
What would I know?
So yeah, I'd say like definitely, seeing that goal and just going for it. That's something how I've like initially started to build my confidence up. And then it's that cliche saying, practice makes perfect. The more you do something, the more it becomes second nature to you. I still get nervous. I remember my first show on In Demand. At this point, I've been on the radio for 7 years, and you're probably thinking, 7 years, he knows what I'm doing, what he's doing. Not at all. I get nervous every day still.
Do you?
Every day. I get nervous a little bit, especially when I'm like trying to construct the link or something like that. Yeah. Sometimes the nerves will kick in.
I suppose that little bit of nerves though is good because it drives you, doesn't it? Gives you kind of keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
You don't want to be complacent because then you end up cocky.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, doing breakfast radio, it's completely different. Because me and Lee were very close, and it's important, I find, that you are close with that first person you see of a morning.
Of course.
Lee wakes up, I wake up, no one else in our house is awake. You're the first people we speak to, first people we see. So I'd say having that good like bond and that good connection with someone who is at a similar path that you're on as well, or understands, is definitely a great confidence booster and a great confidence builder.
Brilliant.
Because there's days sometimes when we're just not feeling it at all.
Well, that's really honest of you, Joe, because you've just said, and you work on radio, you're on an amazing radio show with Lee Butler. I mean, absolute dream role. But you're saying you still get nervous. So tell us, what kind of things do you get nervous about, and how do you push through them? How do you push through those nerves?
I get nervous mostly about what people, again, going back to what people think. Yeah. The judgment. Are people enjoying this? Are people not enjoying it? Right. If someone isn't enjoying it, why aren't they enjoying it? Am I enjoying it even? And it's that judgment. What are people going to say? What are people going to think about the situation and the show and what we do on a day-to-day basis? Even going back to Ocular Media, whenever I've been in client meetings or potential clients, I always get a little bit nervous then in terms of, what's this actually going to go like? How am I gonna do all of this work, which I'm saying out, which we can do? and that's like the big thing for me, which I do get quite nervous about, is, am I good enough? Are we good enough? And what do people think? Are people liking it? For me, like, I've always seemed to struggle with people telling me I'm doing something bad, or constructive criticism. A lot of people like constructive criticism.
Yeah.
For me, I'd rather you tell me, oh, that's good, that's good, that's good. And that's not an ego building thing. That's just, breaking down my barriers that, I'm always doing a bit shit. I'm always doing a bit bad, a bit rubbish.
Sorry, you can't swear.
Oh, can I? I'm always doing a bit shit. So for me, that's kind of like how I would try and get over.
But giving
this.
feedback is a skill, Joe.
Oh.
And some people will just come in and slaughter you.
100%.
Whereas I have always tried to say, these are the good bits, let's work on this.
Yeah.
It's not really criticism, is it? No. You're doing that really well, but let's try that.
Let's focus on this. And don't get me wrong, I've been in both of those situations where I've been on the receiving end of someone slaughtering me, and you're sitting down and saying, what was all that about?
Yeah.
Or you're just not doing this, you're just not doing that. And I've also been on the other end when someone hasn't done their work, their job correctly, and I've had to sit down with them and say, what's going on? And I had to think of how I would feel in that situation to kind of deliver that in the right way.
Brilliant. Well, Joe, your honesty has been amazing. So helpful, and what an amazing story. I mean, we can't believe you're only 21. You've done so much. I need to go and lie down in a dark room. You've done so much. We're coming to the end of our podcast. Just a couple of things before we finish. We need to do. Now we have a bit of a challenge for our guests, and we just do a bit of an icebreaker. And so what it is, this is also a tip to help our listeners and viewers. It's an engagement tool when people are delivering talks and presentations, etc., to just help you get over those nerves. It's a little exercise, a little kind of icebreaker. So we play it with our guests. Guests are winning 2-0 at the moment. So Graham, you need to get your finger out here. Okay. You need to beat him.
Graham.
Don't be, because he's a nice lad. Don't let him win. Okay. I want you to beat him 2. I want you to beat him 2-1. So we're going to play the game, and I've got a celebrity in my head. You can ask a question, and I'll say yes or no. Jacob's going to put a minute on the clock, and the first person to get this, and it's a celebrity you both know. So
can I just confirm it's not written down here?
It's not written down. There's nothing on there.
100% not written down.
Yeah.
I had no idea he was going to do this.
No, I won't tell him, because I want to see if he can beat you, because it'd be quite interesting. So, but again, the reason that we do it is, again, you go into a presentation, and again, if it's appropriate, obviously, if you're all suited and booted and it's a big multi-million-pound contract, you're not going to start playing games with them. But an icebreaker will be held. Well, there's certain things you can do, but if it's a youth audience or an adult team, to break the ice, but mainly to get that connection, to build the energy. Try this, I promise you. Now, a lot of people we know hate doing these and lack the confidence to do it. But what we would say is, try it. We've done it hundreds and hundreds of times. It breaks the ice, it builds the energy, and it just helps with that connection. So as uncomfortable as it might feel, just try it. And we're doing it every episode to try and show you, you can do it. So you can ask a question. I can only say yes or no. We've got a minute on the clock. Joseph, off you go,
Is it a boy or a girl?
It's a lady.
It's a lady.
Great.
Am I on television?
You're on TV, but that's not what you're mainly known for.
Am I a model?
You're not a model, but she's absolutely stunning. 45 seconds left.
Dumped here. Wow. Okay.
Get the profession.
Am I under the age of 30-ish?
Yes.
Am I on the radio?
Well, she's on the radio.
In media, we've
well,
established that.
It's a what context is she on the radio? She's on the radio a lot, but what context? 30 seconds
Am
left.
I a singer?
Singer. She's a singer.
She's a singer. Is she from the UK?
Yes, singer from the UK under 30.
Is it Adele?
It's not Adele.
She's over 30. Is it
10 seconds,
Ella
come
Henderson?
on. No, getting warmer.
Compliments Adele, by the way. I thought you were under 30.
She's massive.
I have no idea.
Is it Jess Glynn?
No, she's massive. Under 30. UK singer.
I have no idea.
Massive UK. Who's the biggest female UK singer currently? Who's the biggest?
You've got Adele. You've got...
Under 30.
I have no idea.
I'm going to...
She's American.
UK, Jacob. I'm going to fill you two in. Now you're walking home. You're in trouble. You're on the radio.
Becky Hill.
No, you're getting close, but because he's under pressure, that his head's gone, you see. This is what pressure does to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I
couldn't even think of a question.
He's gonna punch himself in the head.
Go on.
Beautiful, dark hair, English, got a massive tour on at the moment. Who could that be?
Oh, Dua Lipa. Is it Dua Lipa?
Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa.
Now,
I want a fact check on this.
Oh, go on.
Because I don't think she's fully from the UK. I don't think she recognises herself.
I thought you were going to say she's not under 30 then.
Born in London. Oh, you could have said something
Thanks,
else.
Jacob. I owe you one.
London, Canada, that was, Jacob.
Yeah, that was London, Canada.
No,
London,
that's
Canada.
what pressure does see there. But you know, I thought you would have got it. But you know, very, very close. We'll call that a draw then.
Wouldn't mind. I
that's-
sing one kiss
No,
up when I'm at the game
I got
all the
it.
time as
I
well.
got it just after the time. I'm not being funny. Come on.
That's a draw. That's a draw.
Is that 3-1?
No, that's a 3.
Is that 3-1? It's 3. We'll call it 3-1.
3-1. Yeah, we'll have that one.
Well done,
I'll
Joseph.
let you
We'll
off
call it
with
3-1.
Well
We'll call it 3-1. Right. Every week every episode we're doing a quote, a famous quote related to speaking skills. I'm just going to share it with both of you, and I just want your feedback on it. Okay. So I think this is an absolutely brilliant quote. Okay, and it's from a famous American philosopher and lecturer. His name was Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he lived in the 19th century, very, very famous. And he was quoted a lot, but one of his most famous quotes was this. Tell me what you think of this. All the great speakers were bad speakers at first. Let me say it again, just let it sink in. All the great speakers were bad speakers at first. Very simple, but I think it's very, very powerful. And Joe, why do you think? What do you think of that?
I agree, because being a bad speaker doesn't mean that you don't speak. Doesn't mean that you can't speak. Doesn't mean that you're not intelligent. You know, you could be the most intelligent person. But again, when I first started out on the radio, or when I first started out at Ocular Media, I had to develop that skill in terms of how do I speak? How do I address a client? How do I address a certain audience, or the young or the old? You know, who is it that I'm addressing? So yeah, when I was starting out, I wouldn't say, I think bad's a little bit extreme. I'd say the word poor. I'd say, you know, you were quite poor in your skill set. It's a bit like learning anything new.
Of course, yeah.
You know, you learn to drive. You know, I wasn't able to drive instantly. I don't think anyone can sit into a car and start flying down the M6. But after a while, you get to grips with it. You learn, you build on it, you make mistakes, and that just makes you a stronger person.
Brilliant. So great. All the great speakers were actually bad speakers at first. What's your take on that?
I mean, it's a great quote, but I suppose it goes back to what Joe was saying. The more you practice anything, the better you get. So, you know, you're never gonna instantly be a fantastic public speaker unless you're this gentleman here who at 21 is smashing it. But even like going back to when he was 12, for me, when I was younger, not being able to sort of deliver what I was trying to say, panicking about the thought of thinking of the words that I was going to say and letting that cloud my mind of, I can't even think of the words to get out. So but the more you practice it, I mean, I'm sure we've all done this before. How many times have you been in a situation where you have a conversation with yourself in the mirror thinking, I should have said that to that person? Yeah. I've done it all the time. And I used to think I was weird, but when I look back, I think, actually,
you are weird, Greg.
I am weird. I was actually, I'm practicing. I'm practicing being in that situation again.
Yeah.
So when that situation comes around, I have the confidence and I have the ability to actually say the thing I actually want to say at the time. So I'm not worrying about what the person thinks, but actually being coherent and saying what I want to say and delivering what I want to say so they understand what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I think that's a great quote, because you're never going to be brilliant off the bat, but you are, the more you do it, going to propel yourself to be a better
100%.
speaker.
Yeah, love those answers, love it. Very, very simple quote, but I think it's very, not the most, eloquent quote, but just very simple.
I didn't want to say it was obvious, but it's kind of obvious.
But it is, but when it's really powerful, isn't it? And hopefully it will give our, listeners and viewers confidence that even if you think you stink the room out, you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Graham mentioned it and Joe's mentioned practice, builds your confidence.
We've all been in that situation where we have, say, delivered a speech or delivered some type of, I don't know, presentation, something like that, and it hasn't gone to plan, and you've kind of just thought, oh, that was awful.
Loads of times,
Don't worry about it, because you learn from that, and you sit down with yourself, you see what can I do to improve, what needs to be done to improve, and you just go from there.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we've come to the end of our amazing podcast episode, beamed live across the stratosphere from the friendliest city in the world. depending on if you bump into Joe and Lee in the morning. But if you've enjoyed our episode today, and you know young people, you know youth groups, you know adult groups who you feel could do with a rocket under them, they need help with building the courage to speak so they can start winning at those key moments in life to make them more employable, so they don't regret saying, oh, I should have said that. It'd be great if you can share this. So we've got links on Instagram, on TikTok, on our LinkedIn. If you've watched us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Yeah, and you can also share it so people can listen on Spotify and Apple. I just want to say a massive thanks to Gray. You enjoyed today?
Very much so.
What would you draw out of today? What would you take from today's episode, Gray?
I would take from the fact that there's no right or wrong age to start building your confidence. Whether you are 21, like I was, trying to build your confidence moving forward, or whether you're 12 and now 21, there's never a wrong time to start trying to improve yourself, build your confidence.
Brilliant. Joe, what have you enjoyed about today?
I've just enjoyed, I like to say, sharing like my experience. A lot of people just think, you know, it was something which you know, you kind of get lucky with, but it is that there is hard work into it, and massive part of, I'd say, any job and any career and any path you go down is speaking and being able to find yourself and know what you're comfortable with and building on that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Gray. Build the courage to speak. Win in life. Speak you soon.
If you've enjoyed listening to us today, and if you love Listen and Win, you can find more of our podcasts on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Or if you just want to learn more about Speak and Win and who we are and what we do, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn. And we also have our own website, so come and give us a Google.